Talking about a revolution, oh no. Talking about a revolution, oh no.
Imagine falling within yourself. Your arms and legs are outstretched, flailing around. Your mouth is moving, but yet no sound comes out. As you fall, you see others of different races, and you think to yourself, is their descent into the abyss better than what I'm going through? Sometimes I wish I wasn't me at all, that I didn't have the responsibility of my skin tone. Sometimes standing by as a Caucasian ally where there is no obligation to be on the front lines of change within a community that is not your own.
I was always a drummer. Everything that I enjoy in my life seems to have springboarded from me being a drummer. Daddy began showing me stuff on congas when I was young. As near as I can remember, I was probably around 6 or 7 years old. I was always drawn to the drums in any music I heard, and in the Bronx, we used to tap out beats on cars, on garbage cans, or anything that had a thumb sound.
As the months went by during my pregnancy, I had to face some harsh realities about the world outside the safety of my mother's home. People young and old looked at my growing belly with questions, concern, disgust, shame, and sympathy. Who was she? The stereotypical promiscuous teen mom? The Black girl from the ghetto with no home training? The victim of some dysfunctional or abusive situation? The look of judgment on the faces of my white teachers and my white classmates in my all-white school broke my heart often, but it also gave me a purpose. I assumed everyone thought that I was going to lose because I got pregnant so young. I had to prove to them that I was not a failure, a future welfare case, or any of those other bullshit preconceived ideas that people saw when they looked at me. My son became a beacon of light and hope for my future elevation before he even left my womb. Through that umbilical cord that connected us, we became best friends, partners, mirror images, forever connected at the soul level.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our in-person audience that's here. Hi there out there. Welcome to my beautiful guests, and welcome to you all at home watching for this next edition and next chapter for A Response and a Call. It's been my pleasure to host this series, as a member of JDPP's ensemble, staff, and network of warriors working towards change. I've been blessed to be in company with some amazing artists over the years, to work on beautiful projects, and to also bring it to you in this kind of virtual and now hybrid space, and maybe hopefully one day coming to you live in person some more with A Response and a Call. I'm your host and curator of this series, Mellissa Craig, and I'm super, super excited for today's journey. We're calling this one Joining Hands for Justice, and it is a larger topic that is going to be very embedded into the work and life of JDPP in the next year and in the future, for trying to figure out how do we all work together for justice? How do we all use our individual skills, create connections and networks through our art, through conversation, and through events like this that will help us to really cement an actionable plan for making justice a reality in our community. What you just got to see was a little bit of a recap from some of our past footage of response and a call. And again, it's been a blessing. Like, I was here for all of it, and it's like a dream come true. And I think I used that same phrase now that I say it out loud. One of the amazing guests tonight is Deborah Goffe. We have Andre Rochester. We have our wonderful founder and inspirer, Judy Dworin, on the couch with me today. But when I see work out there in the community that hits home, it is literally a dream come true. It's like when you sit home and wonder and wait and see if you're gonna see something that looks like you, that feels, that sparks a little fire. Response and a call has been that fire for me. And I hope that it has been that same thing for you. Starting in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, it became important for arts organizations like us, not that everybody really did this, but we were definitely called to something bigger in a purpose of responding to what's happening in the world, the political climate, the economic climate, the social climate, and response and a call has been that thing. So I would love for you to just enjoy another little clip of what response and a call has been and what it's meant to me and what it's meant to the community. And then I'll jump into an amazing conversation with these beautiful guests. I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. I stand fearless. I am the tallest version of myself.
And seeing what you go through behind the scenes, right, and what a journey it is for you and how spiritual it is and how scary it can be, it just blew my mind. Climbing mountains, want to get whole. Climbing mountains, trying to breathe. Climbing mountains, trying to feel. Climbing mountains, want to heal.
We all have the journey, and it's different, but we're all trying to get there together.
Step up to the plate and took my best shot. All I ever knew was to give it all I got. They counted me out, I counted me in. They said we would lose. Look at us now, we're winning, we're winning, we're winning.
Kindergarten class is my final frontier. Its sun-splattered walls housed a colorblind utopia of children who resembled each complexion under the Milky Way. Almond white, cinnamon brown, and golden yellow spectrums of light formed a unirace of a rainbow on the other side of Miss Fitzgerald's classroom door. That poem really plays on our approach to life, because on the other side of Miss Fitzgerald's classroom door is all this.
The country is at a real place where these conversations are needed and necessary. And in crowd, out crowd, no crowd for me.
What would it be to exist as my fullest self in every single situation that I'm in?
The ability to craft one's own story, or to craft the story that you want to tell right now, and to create the conditions around which you share that story, feels like such an important version of freedom. What would happen if, for a moment, you decided not to take care of other people and make them feel safe in the presence of your power? With whom do we share our stories, and why? Who will bear witness? Can I get a witness? Is my body your business? The doing it together, that performance allows us to do things together, feels like a really special place of joy.
So the intent behind this piece was to close out that personal narrative story. I began to recognize, you know, and I've been kind of hanging on to this storyline for a long time. I'm not even feeling these things anymore. Like, I'm not doing this stuff anymore. I'm not going through this thing, right? So what am I doing, right? So I needed to celebrate. I needed to provide some closure to that. So you have this orange background, which represents joy. She is surrounded by joy. This person is dancing because they're happy, they're triumphant, they've gotten through the things that they've gone through. That green dress is life. Green represents life. There's even hints of yellow in there. That's hope. That blue is, you know, not everything's always going to be positive. There's dark and light in life, and you just got to go through it. You're gonna wear it, right?
Literally.
The wrinkles are the ups and downs.
What a journey it's been. Response in a Call is definitely one of my proudest moments of being a part of the JDPP family. Justice Dance Performance Project. I'm joined by some amazing guests, including founder Judy Dworin of the Justice Dance Performance Project. And Joining Hands for Justice is this concept and this idea that's been building, brewing for years, and we just finally put an actual name on it. I would like for all of us, well, all of you, my guests, because you'll hear enough from me, to just take a moment to kind of say hi to the people, express a little bit about what Response in the Call has been and meant to you, and how your own artistic practice kind of uniquely helps catalyze change in the community, and what we all can kind of bring together. So just, if you wouldn't mind, Judy, kicking it off.
Sure.
Talking to us a little bit about, and we're all going to be like, yes.
So it's thrilling to be here tonight, and also to see this retrospective of Response in a Call, because when 2020 happened and George Floyd, I think we all had to sit back and say, not sit back, but sit up and say, what are we doing and what more do we need to do? And I think it was easy for, it would have been easy to say, well, you know, JDPP has always been about social justice, and we've always been concerned about these things, and so we're okay, but we weren't okay. No one was then or is now okay about these issues. And so starting this platform for artists of color was something that seemed really important to me, and some way that we could put artists forward from a platform that we were sponsoring to talk about the issues that we all are concerned about but needed to be more concerned about. So I look at this retrospective of work and feel a sense of gratefulness, gratitude that it's happened, that we're all here tonight to talk about it and take it the next step. Yeah, I think Mellissa has been a fabulous carrier and leader of this whole thing, and I just look forward to its continuation, and in the context of a larger frame of work of JDPP, but a very, very important part of it, and one that will evolve into many forms. So,
Ashe. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. So I'm going to shift. I'm going to go to my left, if that's okay.
yeah.
I'm go to my left.
Okay.
Surprise! And I will say too, just so people, I mean, I know that we have some real regulars who follow this series, and we've never had guests on twice. You know, we just try to share and give as much beautiful creative energy towards all the artists in Hartford that we can connect with. But Andre Rochester,
Hi.
and eventually you'll see some more of Deb Goffe, have their voices, their projects, their work resonate so deeply with what, in alignment with what we're already doing with Response and a Call, that it seemed really like a beautiful fit to have you back and talk some more. Actually, Andre was requested several times by the people out there, so let's talk. Let's hear some more about just what you do. How does your art connect you with people? How does it help lift you up in the world? And maybe a little bit about how Response and the Call has been a part of that journey for you, if you don't mind.
Well, first of all, I need to say that I'm honored to be one of your first repeat guests. That's pretty dope, right? It was an honor to be here the first time and to have that discussion with you and to engage in that conversation. It feels good to come back and have this discussion now with another panelist, right? So we can have an even broader conversation. Response and a Call, for me, shortly afterward, I was invited to participate in an exhibit with somebody I've never even met. And they found me through Response and a Call. And this artist, her name is Pam Gordnier, she's actually from Connecticut. She is an activist. She is all about using her work to drive change and to create spaces that force people to look at the issues for what they are and to engage in difficult conversations and stuff, and all that came from this. And I'm very honored to not only have finally met Pam and to be in the midst of planning a show with her. I'm honored to have an opportunity to bring my work somewhere that I've never shown before. And that came from participating in this conversation here. Response and a Call, I think, aside from what it may lead to for me personally, it's an opportunity to engage a broader audience with my work, right? I don't know who's in here from online, right? I only see a few familiar faces in the audience here in person. And so this is an opportunity for me to meet with people and engage with them in a different way, on a different level, and to have conversations that are thought-provoking and maybe learn something from other people as much as some may be here to learn something from me. These conversations are very, very valuable in that regard. And I find it to be helpful when I'm trying to work things out in my head to look back at this conversation that we had a few months ago, and kind of revisit some of the topics that we discussed. One in particular being the activism conversation, right? Yeah. I'm still struggling with the title, but it's growing on me. It's growing.
Good. Trying to plant a few seeds there.
But, it's definitely planting seeds in me and in my work, and I truly do appreciate having the opportunity to be here and participate in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor. And if you did not get a chance to catch that one, you can certainly go to our YouTube page and watch the entire interview with Andre. His work is beautiful. There's all the online references are there to do your research if you're gonna go down the rabbit hole. But today's conversation is to try to build some bridges with what you do as a visual artist, what you do in the community as a Black man, as a father, as a purveyor of Black joy, if I may. I mean, I'm calling it out for you, but you articulate it through your work. Blowing bubbles and smiling brown faces and the work that we get to see that comes from you is it just brings hope. Some of these conversations about race and about the difficulty of this climate of the world are hard.
It is. And
so that we get a chance to lift it up and have a hopeful moment around what it is. And art is a perfect vehicle for that, which all of us can certainly add perspective on. I want to move over to this other couch over here, where we have these beautiful faces, and talk to Deb Goffe. just another person that I would just curl up and watch for hours and listen to for hours. Just as a sister, as a mentor, as a person that I looked up to since very young. We've known each other for a long time, since I was a teenager, before DeAndre. Like all along. Oh, speaking of which, I'm sorry to pop this in.
Yeah.
Did we show that slide?
Not yet.
Okay, good. So I didn't miss it. I want to make sure because in kind of recapping this beautiful series that we've been going through in response to the call, we've had some amazing guests. And so yes, these two are exemplary and are actively doing work that we're going to talk about today and try to dig in some more. But I just wanted to make sure that you understand that we have had the full gamut of all kinds of people be a part of response in the call, from regular citizens, re-entered citizens who dealt with incarceration, artists, dancers, poets, singers. Even my own son was a guest. Drummers with Alvin Carter. So the list of guests that have put the energy together to make Response in the Call what it is today could not have been done without all of that energy. And so I didn't want to be remiss in our recap moment to not acknowledge that. But all right, we'll come back to the couch now and talk to Deb Goffe, because you recently did an amazing piece. If you guys did not see a liturgy order bridge, hopefully it'll come around again one day. If you get lucky. I don't know if there's archival footage, but beyond that, there's certainly a long history of very carefully curated work around so many important topics. And I want you to just take a moment, talk a little bit about how your work impacts the community, what's the intentionality around what you do to create, to choreograph, to bring people together. And then a little blip on the radar of how Response in the Call has been able to amplify that a little bit for you.
Yeah, I'm inclined to follow Andre's lead too, because I think the last time that I got to be in this room with you and with Lauren Horn, there was it was a really special moment, because we have been crossing paths for a really long time, but we'd not ever really had a chance to just sort of sit and be sisterly together. And Judy and I were talking earlier about the fact that Lauren Horn is very much like a little sister to me, and somebody whose development as an artist and a person just matters a great deal to me. So to sit with her and then to finally feel a sense of connection with you, Mellissa, felt like a really important moment. And in some of our preparation for this too, I talked about the fact that at that moment I was in a really critical spot, right? Sort of deciding where I needed to be. Do I quit the job that I'm currently in? Do I move home to Hartford? Where will I feel nurtured and supported? And so there was something about that moment that feels really pivotal. And so as a choreographer and as a curator and as somebody who really struggles to see the difference between those two things a lot, they feel very much like the same thing. When I'm making a dance, I feel like I'm curating, and when I'm actually curating a space of other people's creative processes, I'm very much engaged in my own creative process in the ways I'm navigating togetherness. It feels very much like what you're doing with Response in the Call. That's resonant for me in terms of a desire to elevate voices, to create a platform for people to say the things that they want to say, to encourage people to look at things that maybe we are not in the habit of looking at, and to develop some skills together about how to really see each other, to really see the place that we're in. And, having had my dance company, Scapegoat Garden, be, more than 20 years ago, I don't even know what that means, be based here. And even though I physically laid my head a little bit further north for the last 9 years, Hartford it's where I was born, but it also is very much this artistic home. And so I feel a deep sense of responsibility to not just to show myself, I make dances and I perform, and to sort of show myself, but to really create spaces and environments where we come together and we leave a little bit better skilled at the connecting part. And so that feels like a a consistent aspect of the work that I'm making, and it seems like we share that.
Yes, hitting home with all of it. The three of us are on the couch like, yes, yep, snapping all of it, and the audience is shaking their heads. So let's remind everybody at home too that we do have a live audience in here. We're not gonna have like an applause moment, but I'll clap for you personally that you're all here and you made it, and that I think a part of that shift is trying to allow response and a call to get to this natural place of a call to action. A place where we can be in full conversation with the community about what's needed. I'm so proud of the artistic work we've shown and the artists we've been able to feature, and you know, there's always room to grow. And so how does Response and how does this series help move the conversation along? And that's part of what we're here to explore today. And even just in listening to the conversations and listening to the introductions that each of our beautiful guests gave, it makes me think about curating spaces and curating people. Like, they are two different things, but they work in tandem. And even just the word curation and the nurturing and the thought and care that comes into trying to put together something that's going to be presented. You know, it's like having a family. It's like building a nest. It's like cooking a meal. These are. It's not just choreographing a dance or painting a painting, or, you know, there's so many layers to what that feels like. And I wondered if each of us, or, you know, those of us that are moved to comment, could talk about where we are in that land of curating spaces and people. Is there a difference, or what feels good? Where's our journeys taking us now? Maybe Judy, you want to start us off, if that's okay?
Sure, I'm the starter tonight.
Yeah, yes. Light the match.
Well, I think making work with people is really about establishing community, and it's establishing a community among those creating beings that are in the room, and helping them to find the best source in themselves to say something that they want to say and maybe haven't said before, or that it hasn't even occurred to them to say, but that comes out in the moment. And I think that the spaces that I work in both with performance ensemble, whether lately we've been outdoors doing performances outside and feeling our connection to nature and to the importance of that and how we need to preserve the earth and make that a priority. But also in prisons, to walk inside a prison and find people that have been so marginalized in our society, and to find the huge creative energy that exists there, and the richness of the stories that are there, and how to find a way to nurture that and let that open up so that other people can understand. And how do you take those words and those moments and bring that out to a public that never sees it or hears it? So I think that there's so many ways that we are gifted as artists to be able to establish those channels that allow a sense of community within ourselves, within other people, and also within the larger community out there. So that I think that's where the arts become a seedbed for activism as such, and maybe just a seedbed for change, for evolution, for getting beyond, certainly getting beyond the very fragmented place that we're in right now. So, and and giving hope. I think that in every way, the work that I do may sometimes go very dark, but it's really going there to bring the light forward and to establish the hope that's going to make it possible to move forward. So
I'm right here in step with you, right? I get to go every Wednesday. I get to go to the Juvenile Detention Center, and I feel like that is something that really opens my heart. In a place where you think you might not find a lot of hope, there's so much discovery and so much vulnerability and beautiful things to share. And these are with youth. I mean, people who haven't even found their actual voice yet and have gotten caught up in the system. So I think my work in tandem with what you're doing and our work together in these kinds of programs is so important. And if no one's talking about it, we're gonna sing it from the hills, is the point. So it's really, really beautiful work. And I think it overlaps in so many different ways because we're all kind of working with different populations of people. And I would love to understand, I know Andre was sharing earlier a little bit about your experience of like mounting a show, putting up a show with artwork and working with artists and curating a space from a visual perspective, but also there's a huge people component with that.
Yeah.
So just if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about, you know, what it's like to make a space that feels welcoming and representative of your own story, plus cultivating the story of others that you're working with.
So I've gone from hanging artwork on the wall because it looks pretty to actually curating a street last year, which was very interesting. And the skill set that you use for both is essentially the same. However, when we look at spaces, right? When you curate a space like this room, there's a story that you're telling about the venue, about the artist, about the work. It's not necessarily a story like like a sequence of events or once upon a time type of thing, but you're guiding the viewer's eyes in certain directions, right? You are placing things with intention, whether it be by color or by message or by who the person is. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, even the way that furniture is placed in the room, because that interaction with the space and with the things that you've now introduced into that space is supposed to move you in some way. Curating, for me, is something that came out of a necessity to do my own thing when people told me no. And remembering what it felt like getting those no's, and then being a part of a collective for a while that basically had the same experience, and we went and started doing that. I got the desire to curate for others, and now it's not just about telling my own story, it's about how do I assist other people in telling theirs. Notice I said assist, not that I'm telling their story. It's working with those other artists, those other creatives, and understanding where they're coming from. There's some research involved. That research can be interviewing somebody. That research can be literally going online and looking up the artists that you want to show and getting some info about them. And then there's the action, which is where the people come into play, right? If there's a message behind the exhibit or a message behind the artwork that you're placing somewhere, you want people to act in some way after they've left that space. They're taking something with them, and they're then bringing whatever that is to another group of people to hopefully inspire them to come back to the work or to do something of their own. A lot of the curation that I do now is about uplifting Black and brown people. And I want there to be a sense of pride and joy that comes from seeing that work. I want there to be a sense of responsibility for doing the same for your people when you leave, being motivated and inspired to share our stories even more than we already have. Or if you haven't done so before, I want you to leave with the courage to do so. And that involves making sure folks are learning something, making sure folks are engaging with the work, but more importantly, engaging one another. It's about the dialogue for me. As a creative, my work personally is about inspiring people to have dialogue with one another so that hopefully some kind of action comes from it. And I hope that in curating spaces for other people, that same thing happens. So whatever type of artwork it is, like for instance, I'm curating a quilt show right now, actually fiber art show, it's more than just quilts.
Where's it gonna be?
At the 224 Eco Space.
Okay.
Opening reception this Friday, 5 to 8.
My birthday.
But in that space, right, I was talking about how a lot of the folks in the show are my elders. One of them happens to be 102 years old.
Ooh, so, God bless her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, imagine the pressure of curating a show, and the person who, is really the highlight of the show. This 102-year-old artist who is pretty good with what she does. And then you have 10 other artists, right? 10 other artists whose work are also featured in that. And not everything looks the same. Not everybody's the same type of artist. There's a garment in the show. There's a canvas piece in the show. There's, obviously the quilts, right? But the quilts all have different themes and all that stuff. So I have to develop a narrative in this. And I have to think about what is being expressed in the work if it's obvious, right? Also, the patterns in the work. These are quilts, right? And so all of these things, getting people to engage, getting people to have interest in making sure that every piece stands alone and draws you in is an important part of curation. And, what am I drawing you into? Now I have to select work. I have to omit some work. I have to tell people that some of these stuff didn't make it in the show. All of this stuff happens, right? And all of these folks are my elders, okay? So, being sensitive to that and wanting to make sure that I'm as respectful as possible in the way that I display and how I tell their stories. Some of these quilts have little notes on them because some of them were like gifts to grandchildren and things like that. Some of them have other stuff involved in like the patches on the quilts and stuff. And some of these folks are, they're a pretty big deal in the quilting world. So curating that space, making sure that I keep everybody's interest, making sure that I'm respectful of the artist as much as I respect the crowd that is coming to see the work, ensuring that the level of appreciation is at least at the same level, if not higher, than what I have for these artists in that space. All of these things go into curation. And then, curating a street, well, that I could probably talk to you for hours about, because that was an experience. But now I'm telling the story of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And having to show a certain level of respect for the culture of that neighborhood, the people of that neighborhood, ensuring that the artists are connected in some way to, if not the neighborhood, the town that it's in, right? A number of different factors came into play there. And then, of course, coaching the artists through making sure that they're prepared to show their work at a level that is going to represent them in the best way possible. Curation, if anything, I'll close with this, curation is a selfless act more than it is a selfish thing. I don't do it because I want to be known as Mr. Curator. I do it because I truly, genuinely love other artists and their work, and I want to ensure that they feel empowered and appreciated in what they do.
See, now we're gonna have to have like an episode 3 with Andre Rochester people. It might be coming soon. Well, write in and let us know what you think. But gosh, the time went by so fast. I really do want to get even just a quick snippet from Deb, because I feel like what I'm hearing is an acknowledgement of all the layers of things that have to be carefully thought of when you're putting together work, when you're trying to represent a thought and a community and all the layers that go with it. So if you could just give us some thoughts from your mind around it, and then while she's thinking of what she's going to say, it's your turn at home and your turn in the audience to think about what things have percolated on your mind in this conversation. What do you want to know? Ask us some questions, make a comment. Please, knowing that today's journey and purpose is around creating action. So I'll let Deb talk and then I'll keep going.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief, but this topic is one that I could easily talk a long time about as well. And some of it is because of some sparks I feel like you just lit for me about this topic, but also like some memory thing is happening for me too. And you used the word earlier, nest, and it's a word I'm a little obsessed with as it relates to this topic, because I have been thinking a lot about how artists who are operating under a set of particular conditions that I think maybe we share. We live in a place that people may not readily acknowledge as a cultural center, right? People tend to orient themselves to somewhere else that they imagine as a cultural center. Sometimes we orient ourselves to somewhere else that we imagine as a cultural center. And yet those of us who feel compelled to make art or live among art have to find some way to do it. And sometimes the infrastructure doesn't exist to make that happen in a way that feels easeful. And so I too found my way to the idea of curation long before I had a word for it, because I was somebody trying to make work and trying to figure out how the heck do I do that when it doesn't seem clear to me how, what mechanisms that happens through. And so as I'm finding my way, I'm turning to either side of me and like, what about you? Maybe we go, right? And so there's something about like being in step with the people who are around me, who that's how it started. The very first engagement I had with Judy, I mean, I too have this long legacy with JDPP as sort of this catalyzing experience to think about the fact that I can be a researcher as a dancer, which I knew, right? The first time I read about like Pearl Primus or Catherine Dunn, I was like, I can be a scholar with this, but I hadn't seen it, right? And Judy was the first person I got to see that with, or that I can be concerned about my world and have that manifest in my work. Judy was the first person that I saw that happening with. But then as I was trying to do it myself, I met Judy because I was like, I'm doing a show and I'd like advice. And I found Judy in the yellow pages and called Judy up and was like, can somebody help me? I'm trying to do a show at Christ Church Cathedral in 1996. And Judy showed up and brought a friend and sat and observed this thing I was doing that happened because I needed to show work and I wanted to be with other people showing work. And it was literally stopping drummers on the street and be like, want to be in a show? And so that for me was curation at the beginning, was just being like, I'm doing a thing. Does anybody else care about the thing that I care about? And that has continued to be the motivation. The thing that I'm curious about, I'm wondering if, am I alone in this curiosity? Am I alone in this need? If I meet my need, am I in fact meeting the needs of other people? And that has been pretty consistently the way that it has snowballed. And so this idea of nest for me is the way that we regularly knit together relationships that don't seem to be the authorized one, right? Some gatekeeper from the art world may not say that's how you do it, right? But that's how we do it. It's because we find a relationship with people who are incarcerated and we think that there's something about what I'm up to as an artist that might coincide with what they're up to in their lives. There might be an artist in there, or because I'm walking down the street and there's a drummer and I'm thinking, this is a creative person too, do you want to be in a space and share this with people the way that I do? And so like finding those points of connection to me are a kind of nest that we do, like pulling these threads from everywhere, right? And that the institutions that may be the authorizers, we may be in the back door in the education department, right? Like we may be at the school with the kids, right? Like all these ways that we pull together what seems like disparate connections that in fact becomes like the bed that we make from, that we make a world together from. And so for me, that's what curation is, but that's also, like I said, what I think art making is for me. I acknowledge it's not that for everybody, but that's definitely what it is for me. And so I'm always looking for other people who share that intention. And one of, wherever I find my platform increases in size or scope, I want to share it, right? So curation becomes a vehicle for that for me.
I don't know. Response to the call needs to be the 2-hour show in the future. This 1 hour thing is hard, but I feel like I want to make sure that we know our audience, we want to hear from you. Our audience at home, we want to hear from you. Please write in the chat any questions that you might have. And one major thing that I probably should have mentioned earlier is the fact that, books, they're kind of under attack right now in this country, right? All of our audience members here at the studio have a index card and a pen on your chair. And the purpose of that is to share any book suggestions that you have. Things that we want to read, things that we know will help to open our minds. especially like when we know that certain books may not even be available to our youth to read in the future. What are the things we want to capture, keep, and amplify in terms of voice and in terms of writing? So please feel free, audience members, to utilize the card, write down a book suggestion. Friends at home, feel free to write down suggestions of books in the chat. It'll all be recorded and we'll stay online, kind of keeping going even after the broadcast, a little bit after, so we can make sure we capture all of that. We are wisdom keepers here, gathered on the couch. We've selected a few books that we want to suggest, and we'll share that slide with you as well. And this is just the beginning of the list. I think as a part of the Joining Hands for Justice, I don't want to say it specifically and speak on behalf of Judy, but I know that it's a huge topic right now, and the education and the miseducation and the re-education of human beings in this country through books is going to be a really big part of our campaign as well. And you know, it's another factor and another piece of justice that we want to make sure that gets, and we all felt that it would be a really great way to have some action together. Making a book list is so simple. But we start reading those books and we start getting information in our heads and passing that on to our kids, you know, some of our parents and grandparents even. Those books are going to be the future. So please feel free to add to that list. And I would like to, if it's okay with our panel, open it up to any comments that are lingering in the audience, any questions or comments that are coming in from the chat online. I will admit that my mother texted me a question, so I'm going to look at my phone and see what she wrote, because it's been buzzing by my leg. Hi, Mom, I love you.
She deserves a little prioritizing.
No, she does.
Yeah.
Tree Lady, Charmaine Craig. She's been a huge part of my journey to this point as well. And she wrote one thing that she wanted to know, like, how does Black joy continue to inspire us despite the major issues and challenges in our community, especially with gun violence, poverty, and politics, and racism. She threw that in at the end too.
Can I take that?
It's a lot. So Andre wants to like jump in on that topic, and thanks, Mom, for the question and the comment, and we'll see if anything's marinating here in the live audience. Don't be shy. Go ahead, Andre.
So in my last interview with you, I talked about Black joy and how my work is shifting from this narrative of the doom and gloom of our experience here, and wanting to intentionally feature Black joy as the primary focus of my work, right? And you know, the question, how does it continue to inspire us? Well, when you pursue something, right, when you focus on that thing, that's what you're going to get. You have to set your mind on it, right? And so as I'm in this period of my life where I'm currently living some of the happiest days of my adulthood, I recognize that it is because I am actively pursuing my joy and getting to understand what it is. What does it mean to me? Trying to define it for myself. And so, you know, yes, all the other things happen, right? And those things are very important because they're a part of our experience, but they're not who we are as Black and brown people. And that is very important that we understand that. They are not who we are. They are part of our experience. It's only part of the story. And when you start to focus more on what you have to be joyful about and what you want to be joyful about, things start to shift, hopefully, for you on a personal level. I can't say about everybody else. Well, but for me, when I decided to pursue my
contagious.
happiness, exactly,
It does. It starts to spread out to everybody else.
Yeah, when I made the decision to pursue joy, I became happier.
You got our attention, and here you are, and now all these people know, and all the people at home know, and you know, it's a really important topic to juxtapose both the importance and lessons you learn from the tension and the anxiety of the struggle with the successes and the moments to celebrate, and our youth, who we need to pour so much into, both, you know, in terms of knowledge and inspiration, that the joy is natural.
Ask ourselves, what is our joy? And then ask other people, what is your joy? What does it look like? start having these conversations about what makes you happy, right? Next thing you know, you're gonna have more of that.
Yeah, it's making. You're just stirring like all
Goosebumps.
these memories,
The
like
goosebumps.
memories. I'm having this memory of supporting a process that years ago at Wesleyan, they were experimenting with these ways of engaging audiences at a deeper level. And one of the ways they were doing that was, the details don't matter, but the idea is that around a particular performance, they were allowing an opportunity for a group of audience members, sort of a self-selecting group of people, to like be part of a little bit of a conversation, to maybe move through some of the motifs of the performance they were about to see, to have a dinner together and talk, and then after the performance to talk about what they'd seen together. So I facilitated one of these, and it was a dance piece that was, it was Kyle Abraham's Pavements, that was sort of inspired by Boys in the Hood. And so I'd had this wonderful day together with these people, and then it was like 7 or 8 people. And then afterward, we sat and talked about the performance, and somebody said that they were surprised by the scenes of joy, because given the theme of the piece, they were surprised to see that joy had shown up. And that was, I'll never forget it, because this was a moment that I was like, no, but humans are involved. Like, we have capacity for joy always in all circumstances, right? And the neighborhoods and the time period that the movie is referencing, that sort of came through abstractly in the piece, was not, people were living lives, like babies were born, people fall in love, like, right? That should not be a surprise to us, that in incredible difficulty that people find a way to live in their full joy. But it really requires that we know how to see joy, and that we know how to see things as more than one thing, right? So I feel like the thing that you're saying is also about like being able to perceive it, knowing that where incredible difficulty exists, there's also a capacity, like both things can be true, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've got a comment in the audience. All right. How does it work? You got to come over. Yes.
Do it quickly.
People at home can
Do
see
it quickly. You're blocking the camera.
Hi. Okay, so this question is for Mellissa and Judy. All right, so what prompted these discussions and the, what is it? I lost my word. Oh, crap. And the panelists.
Like, how do we choose?
Yes, how do you choose the panelists? What prompts the discussions? And how do y'all come up with y'all subjects on what y'all going to discuss for that discussion?
Okay. You first?
Well, why not?
Go ahead. Pioneer.
Great question, Robert. We've just put our heads together. Sometimes an idea will come from the last one. Sometimes it'll be something that's happening in the world that just sparks, okay, we've got to go here. And sometimes it's just like, we've gone here, now where else can we go? And so it's kind of modulating the energy of the series and putting our heads together with then who, once we think about what, then we think about, well, who, and sometimes who comes first, and then it's who's coming, and then what's the sort of theme to it. But I don't know that there's one way that it happens. I think in anything that I think I ever do, it's about sort of not deciding on something but waiting for it to come to me. If I can be patient and open, then it comes. And at that point, there's what's the avenue then that seed idea is going to follow through with. And Mellissa and I speak together often, but we have a weekly kind of really putting our heads together, and then other times besides that. And so it starts to just one, and then I let Mellissa take it, because that I felt strongly that even though the response in a call came to me as an idea, that I wasn't going to be the person leading it, that I recognize that I'm a person who's a white woman, and this is a series for, I felt very strongly about that my presence needed to be in the background. And in fact, it's really quite an honor for me to be here tonight. And it's the first time that I have felt that it was the time to do that, because I remember in the very first one, everybody in the responsive call said, "Oh, but you've got to come out for the Q&A, and come on." And so I did, and we were on Zoom, and I just thought, oh my gosh, why did I make that choice? I shouldn't be here. I don't belong in this room right now. I feel like I do belong in this room now, and that's, and I think, and I don't want to take too long with this answer, but the Joining Hands for Justice is something that I feel we just now need to not, that on the one hand we need to keep spaces that are spaces that are intended spaces for voice to be those spaces, but we also have to join hands and go for it all together. And I feel that this is a critical time. It's always been a critical time, but I think this is even more of a critical time for that to happen. So that felt like the permission to and also because I love all three people that are here, and we've had the most fabulous conversations leading up to this. Gosh, that I mean, this just feels like a wonderful extension of something that's been beautiful every time. So, yeah.
Every time we've met for this particular round, I'm like, maybe we should have recorded that Zoom. We said some great stuff already. Like, we had to save that for the show, and then some more like even random beautiful magic happens tonight. So. The only thing I would just also add to that answer, Robert, is that Judy has become a really important mentor to me. Like the fact that we get to talk every week and having like our differences of who we are align towards a together goal feels like the most important part of being able to do the work with JDPP and with her. And having that space to be able to say what I want and say things that are maybe uncomfortable or say things that are like, well, you've never heard that one before, but yeah, that's what it is. And it's very well received, and it's very, like, we have the space to be able to have the hard conversations. So I think tonight's event is a kickoff to a place where we want to include more people. We want the community at large. Like, we've had an amazing time introducing artists and their work and their responses to the world. And then how do we take all that information and just, everybody's an artist, everybody's a world citizen, everybody's got an opinion and a voice. How do we include you all in that conversation? And it's been a wild night already. We've got so much information we've covered, and there seems to be more. Like, I don't want to leave an intentional kind of ... on this, but Response and a Call will have more in the next season. JDPP is going to continue to do this kind of work and continue to challenge, ask questions, bring people together to the table to tackle these topics. And even just looking in the room, I wish you guys could see the audience. It's a beautiful spectrum here right now. It's lovely, and there are people in the room who I know are already working with us in tandem to make these events happen, to make these conversations possible. And we need more help. I don't know if there's anything happening on the chat or online. Okay, great. I want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody's comments out. My thigh is buzzing, so let's see if Mom has anything else to say.
Can I just repeat what you said, though, about differences aligning? Yeah. Like, that seems like an oxymoron, but it's so beautifully right, right? Like, it's not about sameness aligning, because I think that's what people mean more and more, but that differences can align, that's so beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
We're at that place, too. There's a generational thing, there's all kinds of layers of being able to take and respect each other's wisdom and knowledge. And that's one of the main things I've learned from Response and a Call. And that's what I want to amplify out into the community even more, to get people to, watch all the episodes, write into JDPP. Who do you want to see next? What are the topics that are important to you? Who's your congressperson? What are the topics that we need to be discussing? And what books are you reading? What's sparking a fire under you to make a change? There's an important election year coming up. I don't know if anybody noticed, but yeah. It's a very important election year coming up. There are so many topics on the table, even just small local city politics of how do we get guns off the street? How do we stop all this violence? There's so many people in need of conversation and compassion and to be heard. So thank you for helping Response and a Call be what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience. I'm not like rushing you necessarily out the door unless if someone has a burning thing they want to say. But you know, it's been a full night. We kind of did what we came to do. All of our resources for the book recommendations list will be available online. All the Response and a Call videos are available online. If you're tuning in tonight, we encourage you, and if you're here in person, encourage you to fill out the surveys and follow up with JDPP to keep in touch about your ideas and your inspirations, and to please visit and come to our upcoming events, because there's so many opportunities to get involved and to do something. And I know for me, Response and a Call is, we've focused a lot on the responding part. We've done so many shows now about how artists can use their voice to make an impact. And the call now is for the community and for us to kind of be called to action around these thoughts and to use the visuals, the performances, the dancing, the singing, the poetry, even just regular conversations to make sure that we continue to grow, challenge the status quo, and heal and celebrate and like leave things on a happy note in terms of the amount of joy that's really embedded into the struggle. So I think on that note, I want to be the last word. I'm not the last word type. But on that note, I want to thank everybody at home watching. I want to thank the beautiful audience that's here in person, Robin and Susie from staff, and for making all the preparations and helping us be here. Thank you, Judy, for the continued support and platform, and Deb and Andre, BFFs, like Response and a Call co-hosts. I don't know, we're going to figure it out in the future. There's more to be said here. We've really just kind of scraped the tip of the iceberg.
And thank you, Mellissa.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
To you and Judy.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the